respite from all the shoveling all of us have been doing this winter. On our consent calendar tonight, we had the resignation of Jean Witowitz from the Board of Health, and I wanted to thank Jean for her service to the public as a volunteer on this board. I also want to congratulate firefighter Brendan McCluskey on joining our fire department as a full-time paid employee, and I wanted to thank Brendan for his years of service as a volunteer firefighter serving the residents of Morris Township. It's great that we have folks willing to volunteer their time to serve all the other residents of the township. I'd also like to congratulate the Morristown High School hockey team on their victory. And I wanted to say that I've noticed recently that almost every month we have recognition of some kind of youth on our agenda. Tonight on the consent calendar we had the acceptance of an application for a junior firefighter to our fire department. It was nice that we saw that as well. On other occasions we've seen a recognition of Eagle Scouts and kids with academic excellence. And so I think it's great that we're recognizing the youth in our community. On our agenda tonight, we also had the annual contribution to the Minutemen. We helped fund their budget, and I think at some point, since we've recognized the Morristown hockey team and we're going to recognize the Morristown Beard hockey team, there are a lot of youth volunteers at the Minutemen, and it would be nice to recognize those volunteers as well at a future meeting. So it's nice to see so many youth in our community getting recognized, and I wanted the public to be aware of all the great things that the youth in the community are doing. As was just mentioned, and some of you might have heard, I was hit by a car last month while crossing the street within a crosswalk in Morristown. Pedestrian safety now has a much new meaning to me based on this experience. I'm lucky I didn't break any bones and I'm able to walk today, but it could have been a lot worse. And the Township Committee has received a repeated requests from residents along James Street for a sidewalk for that community so that people can walk safely into Morristown and between various streets there. This item has not been included in the budget that we put forward tonight. One reason is because Morristown has not committed to funding their portion of the budget. So I'm going to be speaking to my colleagues in Morristown on the Morristown Council to urge their mayor to include it in their budget. And once we do that, I hope we can find some money in our budget to do it as well. But I did want to ask Mr. Quinn if he could start looking at possible grant funding that might ease the cost of putting the sidewalk in for both our community and Morristown, since we're going to share that. And having some grant funding in place might make it easier for both of us to adopt funding ordinances.
I've been doing that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Mancuso. Thank you, sir. I think the saddest thing that's happened in this township since I have been involved, since I've lived here, is the sudden death of one of our policemen's sons, Brady Hydock, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was a horrible experience to go and spend time at the wake and then go to the funeral the next day, and I can't tell you how sorry we all are, how sorry I am. We had all the monks at the monastery where my son is praying for him and for the family, and we just wish that all of you would remember tonight before you're going to bed to say something, keep him in your prayers. Just really glad everything worked out well for you and nothing terrible happened. We spent a lot of time over the past, I guess since December, putting the budget together. It's been an Herculean task, as we used to say. But if it weren't for Mr. Quinn, we would not have had the budget done in March to be able to present and get it done in April. He was tireless. He spent days and nights putting this together. Mr. Caffrey was involved, as was I. Just to say that we stayed under the levy cap of 2%. Our salaries in the regular O&E is up about 1%. Our pension costs, though, this year are up significantly. Our debt service is steady. We retired $2.4 million in debt, and we authorized $2.4 million in debt service and debt for capital projects. We're putting aside $250,000 for the stonework in the the facade at Morris Township Library, which is, the total cost is $1 million. We'll be splitting that with Morristown. We certainly are ready to start the one-armed bandit situation here in Morris Township. We will be buying our first truck and 500 cans to be distributed to the residents in the areas that we go first. We're working very hard to get the street of Poole together. We're doing Collinsville playground improvements. Our road construction projects are in Springbrook Phase 2, Normandy Heights Road, Kenilworth and Oak Lane, Blackwell Avenue. We're doing drainage projects throughout the town. We're doing an overlay road project for $700,000. And again, the sewer upgrades for both plants of $1.5 million. But it was a long process. All of the department heads did a very good job in keeping their expenses down. And I just am very proud to have been able to introduce this budget this week. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rosenbusch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things to not be redundant. Again, congratulations to Brendan McCluskey. I've known the McCluskey family for a while as volunteers, and he's a fine firefighter as well as his brother, and I'm sure he will be a very welcome, added, positive addition to that fire force. You know, just to go back, you know, and not to repeat a lot of the things that Mr. Mancuso, a lot of the highlights in the budget. I'm not going to go through that again, but just a couple of pieces. Number one, you know, Tim Quinn is, you know, he probably got so sick and tired of us calling him 6, 7, 8 times a day. And you know what? There were times that I would call here at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and he's still here. And that would not be an anomaly. It was a regular occurrence. So he has put in as Peter would say, Herculean efforts to kind of pull all of this together, and I really want to thank you. But the one piece that I want to add in terms of the budget, and everybody always says, you're sitting back over there, and I can probably see it in everybody's face, what does this mean to me? What it means, the less than 2% increase, as Mr. Mancuso said, it was just 1% on salaries and O&E. We took a really big hit on the pension liability side. But what it means for the average assessed household in Morris Township on the municipal side is $28 a year, $7 a quarter on the average assessed value home of just about $400,000. That's assessed value, that's not market value. It's in terms of the number on average, you know, compared to last year, smaller number than last year. And I think we're all very proud. Not only the Finance Committee, but I want to thank you know, Mr. Griesel, Mayor Sisler, Mr. Rosenbusch, all the department heads, Mrs. Pardo, our CFO, for pulling all this together, getting it introduced here in March, and we will have final adoption of it in April. So, thank you all. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, in case I forgot to thank Mr. Quinn, I apologize.
He already walks on water, Scott, enough.
I look at it this way. The sooner I get the budget done, I can play baseball.
There you go. Pitchers and catchers.
We have a few proclamations tonight. Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2014. Autism Awareness Month, April 2014. Organ and Tissue Donor Awareness Month, April 2014. Proclamation for National Public Health Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2014. And announcing that the month of March now is National Nutrition Month. Alright, monthly reports is circulated. Claims for payment. Our list of bills and vouchers. Paid bills?
I'll move the monthly reports.
We move the monthly reports. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move that we pay the bills.
Second?
All those, sorry, roll call.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
Mr. Grizzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenbush?
Too much.
And Mayor Sisler?
Yes.
Yes.
I understand.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
So moved.